The evening I returned home from my deployment, I discovered my belongings thrown on the porch and a handwritten note stuck to my old bedroom door that read, "Storage room, no entry." My mom didn't even glance my way. She simply handed me a motel voucher and stated, "You've been away for years. We've moved on. We don't need your problems." It felt like a toxic presence in the house. Standing there in my uniform, I replied, "Understood." 2 months later, I took an action they never saw coming. Now my phone is flooded with messages like, "Please, son, we'll do anything. Just talk to us. Don't shut us out." We didn't mean it that way. I finally picked up one call, let them plead for a moment, and then said, "You discarded me like trash. Now stay out of my life." Is it just me, or does your family's home seem smaller after years away? Not in a literal sense. I understand how houses function, but you return after a long time, and everything you thought you remembered feels different. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, this isn't a cheerful story, and I'm not looking for advice. I just needed a place to share this. Honestly, I want people to see how some families behave. Buckle up, I guess. So, a bit of background. I'm Lucas, 27, not a kid anymore, but I left home around 20 for what I thought would be a brief period. It turned into a lot longer than expected. I kept in touch at first. My family has always been obsessed with good energy. My mom's all about crystals, yoga, and manifesting positive vibes. You get the picture? She's not much of a hugger, but I adjusted. My stepdad, Todd, was always more of a background character, doing his own thing. But after marrying my mom, every conversation revolved around maintaining peace. My stepsister, Maya, now about 21, was always glued to her phone and acted as if I were invisible after I moved out. I sent money back home for groceries, shared the phone bill, and helped with repairs when things broke. Nothing extravagant, but I thought it was the right thing to do. Over time, calls became less frequent, but I always informed them when I planned to return, even with just a couple of weeks' notice. This time, I texted, called, and emailed, receiving only a thumbs-up emoji from Maya and a brief "sounds good" from Todd. So after all this time, I arrived home late, nearly midnight, because my flight was delayed. Standing outside with my old duffel bag and a carry-on, the first thing I noticed was my name on a sign taped to a suitcase left on the porch, "Exposed to rain." I'm not dramatic, but I paused, wondering if I had the wrong place. The porch light was off, which was unusual since they always left it on for good energy. I rang the doorbell. No response. I knocked. Still nothing. I fumbled for my phone and texted Maya, "Hey, I'm here." I saw the read receipt but got no reply. After a minute, I decided to try the door. It was unlocked. Inside, the house smelled of incense and lemon cleaner, which was new. The kitchen lights were on, and Todd was there, scrolling through his phone at the table as if I were merely a delivery driver dropping off a package. I said, "Hey." He looked up and said, "Your stuff is outside. We're full. Not even a welcome back or how was the trip." That was it. I didn't know how to respond, so I stood there waiting for someone else to appear. Maya came out, glanced at her phone, barely acknowledged me, and said, "Mom's upstairs. She wanted to see you before you go." As if I were a package for delivery. Todd just kept scrolling. I headed upstairs to my old room, feeling a bit anxious. Something felt off. At my door, I found a handwritten sign taped over my old Keep Out poster. In my mom's handwriting, it read, "Storage room, no access," entirely in capital letters and underlined. I tried the handle. It was locked. I knocked. Nothing. My mom appeared in her robe, hair wrapped up, barely looking at me. She handed me a small envelope, like those you receive at a hotel, and said, "Here's your voucher. You'll need to stay at the Cedar Lodge tonight. We've moved on. We don't need your problems tainting the energy in this house." She didn't seem angry, just exhausted, as if I were a puzzle to be solved. I asked, "Can I at least see my room?" She replied, "It's a storage space now. You can't bring your negativity here. It took years to create peace in this house. You've been gone for years, Lucas. We've moved on. Don't make this harder." Then she turned and went back into her room, shutting the door. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. I knocked again. Nothing. I asked, "Can I retrieve some of my things?" Still no response. Maya walked down the stairs, stepped around me as if I were blocking the hallway, and said, "You're making this awkward." She pushed past and slammed her door. I stood there for a moment, staring at the sign, then returned downstairs. Todd hadn't moved. I asked if I could just sleep on the couch for the night, and he said, "No, that's where I do my morning stretches." That was his reason. I asked, "What happened to my room?" He replied, "Storage." I inquired if my things were still there, and he said, "We gave you what you need." I asked what that meant, and he shrugged. Then he got up, grabbed his water bottle, and walked past me to the garage door, slamming it shut. So there I was, standing in the kitchen with the lights too bright, my bag outside in the rain, holding a motel voucher, feeling like a stranger who mistakenly wandered into the wrong house. I checked my bag to ensure nothing was missing. I was so tired, and walked off the porch. Looking back, I saw the porch light flicker off, not even subtly. At the motel, I checked in. The woman at the desk didn't even ask for ID because my mom apparently called ahead to inform them I was coming. So, I guess they planned this. That night keeps replaying in my mind, and I wonder if I missed some sign, but it's just how they are now. My mom's been on this high vibes only kick for years, and I think she decided anyone who doesn't fully buy in is bad energy. Todd never liked me much, to be honest. He always wanted his space. And now he has it. I don't even know what to say about Maya. She's in her own world. They always acted like I was too much as a kid, so I'm not really shocked. Just IDK. Not like this. I texted a few friends from high school, but no one lives in town anymore, so I just stayed at the motel. The next morning, I tried to return to ask for my things. But that's a whole different story for another post. Honestly, this is already way too long. I'm not sure what to do now, but I'm not just going to let this slide. Not after that. I'm not going to sit around and sulk. That's not me. If they want to be cold, I can be colder. I'll update once I gather my thoughts and figure out my next steps. Update 1. So, I said I'd keep you posted, and it's been a few days since I last wrote. To be honest, I didn't sleep much at the motel. I kept waking up, trying to decide whether I was overreacting or if this situation was as messed up as it feels. I know Reddit has all kinds of stories, but for real, this is just what happened. You can figure out if it's crazy or just typical family stuff. I'll try not to ramble. The morning after the porch incident, I went back to the house telling myself maybe they were just tired or it was late, hoping they'd be more welcoming if I was calm. When I arrived, the car was gone, so I assumed they were out. I knocked anyway. Nothing. Then I checked the side gate. It was open, which was strange because my mom is strict about boundaries. I walked around back and peered through the kitchen window. Someone was moving inside. It was Maya, headphones on, working on her laptop at the table. I tapped on the glass, but she ignored me. I stood there feeling foolish for a moment before letting myself in since I still had a key. Maya looked up, took off her headphones, and said I should have texted first. I replied that I did. She said she was busy, then got up and left the kitchen, heading upstairs. I started to follow, but then Todd came in from the garage, yoga mat under his arm, wearing socks with sandals. Classic Todd. He stopped and stared at me, seemingly waiting for an apology. I asked if I could go into my room, and he said it wasn't my room anymore. It was a storage area, and I should take what's mine and leave. I asked if I could at least take a look, and he said no, adding that Mom didn't want disruptions and that I should respect her wishes. I inquired about my belongings, and he said they were boxed up in the garage. I went out there and found 3 boxes labeled with my name in Sharpie. I opened them to find some clothes, old chargers, 1 photo album, and a couple of books. Nothing more. I asked where my laptop was, and he said Maya uses it for college. I asked about my old phone, headphones, and tablet. You get the idea. He just shrugged and said, "It's been years, Lucas. You basically left it all behind." I told him that wasn't how it worked, but he just walked away, saying he had things to do. I went back inside to talk to my mom. Her door was closed upstairs. I knocked, and she said through the door that she was meditating. I stated, "I just want to talk." She replied that she could speak later if I came back tomorrow with better intentions. I insisted I just wanted my things, and she said I was fixating, and that's why I didn't fit the energy. I could hear her voice getting sharper with each response, but she wouldn't open the door. I returned downstairs, and Maya came out of her room, rolling her eyes at me. I tried to ask her about my things, and she ranted about how I couldn't just drop in and take over, how the house had finally found peace since I'd been away, and that I never really fit in. She claimed I always made things tense, that Mom had been happier, and that I should just move on like everyone else. I said I just wanted what was mine, and she retorted, "It's just stuff, Lucas. You act like it's life or death. It's wild to hear your own family treat you like a random roommate who overstayed their welcome." I stepped outside for some fresh air, sat on the steps, and called my aunt who lives nearby. We used to be close, but she answered and basically said she didn't want to get involved, suggesting I let things settle. Then I checked my accounts to see what was going on, and that's where it got even messier. I noticed some strange charges from the past few months, like grocery deliveries and household expenses, all going to my old joint account with my mom. I called the bank, and the representative said the account was still active, my name was still on it, and someone had been using the card for autopay on 5 different utilities. I locked the card immediately, not out of spite, just because it's my name and my money, and they didn't even ask. I texted Maya about it, and all she sent back was a shrug emoji saying, "Ask Mom." I messaged my mom, and she called me petty, claiming I was making things hostile. I told her it was my money, and she replied, "We needed it. You weren't here. You never said not to." Then she blocked me. At this point, I was furious. I won't lie. I went back inside, and Todd was back. At the table, I told him I locked the card, and he said I was being dramatic, that they needed it to keep the house running, and that I had abandoned them. I told him he couldn't just take from me, and he said it wasn't stealing if it was family. I replied, "Not anymore." He then stood up, got in my face, and told me I needed to leave. I refused. He pushed past me, grabbed my arm, and tried to shove me out, but I pulled away, warning him not to touch me. He snapped, saying I was just like my dad, which is a whole other story and definitely not a compliment. I told him to back off, and he opened the front door, telling me to get out before he called the cops. I grabbed the boxes and slammed the door hard on my way out, rattling the glass. I heard Maya yell something from upstairs, but I couldn't catch it. Now I had 3 boxes, no laptop, half my belongings missing, my money drained, and my family treating me like the villain for wanting basic respect. I called the bank again, set a new password, locked every account, and changed all my information. I checked the house record because, yes, I helped buy it back in the day, and my name was still on the paperwork. It seemed they needed my credit to refinance, and they never told me, didn't even send a text. They just used my information, thinking I'd never notice. That's where I'm at now. I'm not letting this slide. I'm not going to explode or do anything illegal, but if they want to treat me like an outsider, I can play that game better. Then they can. I'm already talking to someone about my share of the house, and if they think I'll just fade away, they're in for a rude awakening. If they don't want me in their lives, fine. Let's see how they cope without my bad energy and my name on their bills. I'll update once I figure out my next steps. Update 2. So here's where things shifted from family drama to actual rage. I'm not trying to be dramatic. This is just what happened. First, I couldn't stop thinking about how Maya shrugged off that I was missing half my belongings and how Todd treated me like I was squatting. The way my mom's tone turned cold as soon as I mentioned anything beyond good vibes stuck with me. But I couldn't shake one question. Why was my name still on all the bills? Why was my credit still being affected by their address? I figured, if they hated me so much, they'd have at least tried to remove me, right? So I started digging. I spent a couple of hours on the phone with the power company, the bank, and the insurance company. I was on hold forever, but I eventually got through. It turns out my name isn't just on the utilities. I'm still a part owner on the actual house deed. Not just a co-signer or someone who helped out, but literally still on the title. I remembered contributing to the down payment, but I thought they'd refinanced ages ago. Nope, they didn't. I guess they needed my credit to get approved and just left me on it. I checked my email and found a notice about property taxes. I clicked through. Yep, bills in my name and my mom's. I'm not even living there, yet I'm still responsible for it. Now I wasn't just angry. I was furious. What else had they used my information for? I checked my credit report and found a few unfamiliar items tied to that address. Nothing that would completely ruin me, but enough to frustrate me. I texted my mom about it, and she called, her voice overly calm, saying I was overreacting and that it wasn't personal. She claimed they needed it to keep things going. I told her that's not how this works, and she kept insisting that I left them and was making things hostile. I reminded her. You literally kicked me out. She sighed, saying I always brought drama. I hung up. So, I called a realtor. Not kidding, I just Googled one with good reviews and set up a meeting downtown. I explained that I was on the deed but didn't live there, wanting to know my options. He said, if you want out, you can foresee a sale or make them buy you out. I replied, great, let's start the process. He asked if I wanted to give them a heads up, and I said, yeah, I'll give them a chance to talk to me like adults. I returned to the house and knocked on the door. Todd answered, glaring without moving to let me in. I said I needed to talk, and he replied I could speak from the porch. I told him I knew about the deed, the bills, the taxes, all of it, and that I wouldn't keep being used. I stated they had two options, buy me out or I'd force a sale. He turned red, actually stepped onto the porch, and got up in my face, claiming I was trying to ruin their lives, that I was selfish for abandoning them and now wanting to take their home. I told him, you're not going to guilt me. This is business now. He attempted to block my way out, so I pushed past him, and he grabbed my shoulder, trying to shove me back. I told him to keep his hands off me, and he released me, warning that if I tried anything, he'd call the cops. I shot back. Go ahead, I'm an owner too. As I walked away, I heard Maya yelling from the window that I was toxic and ruining everything. I just laughed and kept moving. About half an hour later, I received a call from my mom, her voice shaky, trying to sound reasonable. She said we should work this out, claiming I didn't understand the situation I was putting them in. I responded, you put yourself here. She began to cry, saying I was destroying the family. I told her, you destroyed it the night you left my things on the porch. I returned to the realtor and instructed him to proceed. He said he'd begin the paperwork, get the place appraised, and send formal notice to the family. Within a day, I received a flood of texts from Maya, all in caps, like, how could you? And, Mom's having a breakdown and you're just doing this for revenge. I didn't even respond. Then Todd called, accusing me of making things worse for everyone and threatening to sue me for abandonment of property, which isn't even a real thing. I Googled it, and he threatened to make it ugly. I told him, you already did. He hung up. The next day, a notice arrived in the mailbox from the realtor. My mom called, her voice trembling, saying they couldn't afford to buy me out, that Maya was in school and everything would fall apart. I told her, not my problem anymore. The best part was that when the realtor started the process, word got out among my mom's wellness clients. She holds group classes in the living room, which I never understood. Suddenly, she was posting vague statuses on Facebook about family, betrayal, and bad energy ruining the home. People began canceling. My cousin sent me screenshots saying the family chat was blowing up. My aunt texted me, asking if it was true that I was selling the house. I simply replied, yes, it's true. They left me no choice. Now the house is being appraised. The realtor has the paperwork, and my family is in panic mode. Todd is stress posting. About ungrateful kids on his social media, Maya is DMing me as if I'm the villain in some TV show, and my mom is acting like I'm the one who shattered everything. At this point, I'm not even angry. I'm just done. They wanted me gone. This is what being gone means. No more free credit, no more bills in my name, and no more bad energy to use as an excuse. Now they're the ones feeling the pressure. I won't relent until they confront me for once, instead of hiding behind energy and excuses. I'll update when the next development occurs. If they thought they could just use me and lock me out, they seriously underestimated how far I'm willing to go. Final update. The strangest part is how silent everything became right before the panic set in. You could almost sense it through your phone. There were 0 texts for a few days. Then suddenly my phone exploded with missed calls, long messages, and all-caps apologies. I figured they'd put up more of a fight, but once the sale process began, it was like the entire family snapped at once. The realtor put the sign out front, which I guess was the final straw. The first text I received was from Maya, a string of question marks followed by a selfie of her crying, and then another long message about how I was ruining her life, and she couldn't focus on finals. I left her on read. Todd called twice and left a voicemail saying I wasn't thinking clearly and that I was destroying everything they built, threatening to take me to court. I just forwarded it to the realtor. My mom switched to full wellness cult mode with every message about forgiveness, second chances, and how the universe wants us to heal together. She started posting those fake deep quotes on Facebook, tagging me in all of them, about how family is forever unless you let anger intervene. I muted her. She texted again, saying they couldn't afford to move, that her business was tanking, and that people were gossiping about family troubles. I scrolled through the messages, honestly amazed at how someone could flip from being cold to desperate in just a week. Meanwhile, the group chat with my aunts and cousins was blowing up, with everyone taking sides. My aunt was half on my side and half upset that Thanksgiving would be awkward now. My cousin sent me screenshots of Maya's rants on Instagram, claiming my bad energy drove my brother away, trying to paint herself as the victim. Whatever. Here's the deal. I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just done. I spent too long allowing them to walk all over me, treating me like a ghost just floating around the house, only useful for wiring money. Now they're experiencing what it's like when the person holding up the bridge lets go. Not my issue if they can't swim. On the day of the appraisal, Todd actually tried to block the door when the appraiser showed up. He called me and said, "If you want to see real consequences, you should stop pushing." I told him to let the appraiser in, or I'd call the cops for interfering with a legal process. He backed off. I later heard from my cousin that Mom's wellness clients were canceling sessions and that she started doing remote healing over Zoom because no one wanted to come to the house. Maya kept bombarding my phone with, "You're ruining my future, and I can't believe you're this selfish." I blocked her. About 2 weeks after the sign went up, I started receiving messages from numbers I didn't recognize. People from my mom's group asking me to reconsider for her sake. Not happening. I got a DM from an old neighbor asking if it was true that I was kicking them out. I simply replied, "They kicked me out first, then blocked them." Finally, after about a month of silence from me, my mom sent a long text, basically an essay saying they didn't mean it, that she was just protecting her peace, and that she didn't know what to do because I was so angry when I came home. She expressed fear that she'd do anything to make it right, and that she missed her son. Then Todd tried to call, followed by Maya, then my aunt, and then my mom again, all within an hour. It was just sad at this point. I answered once to get it over with, letting them talk for a minute. Mom was crying, Todd was saying they'd find a way to pay me out, and Maya was begging me not to go through with this. I told them, "You threw me out like trash. Now stay out of my life." When the sale finally went through, they had to move out. I took my share, not a life-changing amount, but enough to start fresh. I relocated to a different city, got a new number, and deleted my old social media accounts. My cousin is the only one who still communicates with me. I told her that if anyone tries to show up, I'll call the landlord. So that's how it ends. No one really wins. But at least I'm no longer trapped in a family that uses energy as an excuse to take advantage of people until they're left with nothing. Honestly, I don't have any profound lessons to share, just that if someone shows you what you mean to them, believe them. And if they treat you poorly, maybe it's time for them to learn what happens when you take out the trash. That's all. I'm done.